Hey everyone, welcome to Screen Weens episode 171, where we're going to be talking about Barbara Loden and her funny films she made.
Yeah, they were
Wanda, The Frontier Experience, and The Boy Who Liked Deer, I think is what it was called.
Yes.
As always, I'm Loden.
I'm Thomas.
And this is the goddamn best podcast you'll ever listen to.
It's also the only one.
The only one you'll ever listen to because it's the only one that exists.
Mm-hmm.
As always, before we get into it, we're going to talk about what we did this week and how we are and swiggity swag. Thomas, you do anything this week? Besides...
Nothing fun. So we had to put down my 14-year-old dog on Saturday.
Which is not fun.
No, it wasn't. So yeah. Aside from that, before that, I had ironically watched Bad Moon, which is the movie about the family dog that...
I thought you liked that movie.
I do. Oh. I do. It was just...
Oh, did you watch it and then find out about your dog?
Well, I watched it, and then a couple days later was when the whole ordeal went down. Because basically, he did this thing where, like, he got to the point where he wasn't able to eat solid foods anymore, but he still had to take pills. So, like, if something got stuck in his throat, he would, like, kind of yelp. So I woke up Saturday morning to him yelping, and my dad, like, had to kind of pull the pills out of his throat, but, like, a bunch of white foam came out, so we took him to the vet, and his heart was enlarged and full of fluid, so it was just, it was time. He was old, but yeah, it was really sad. And not a great experience. The doctor wasn't very warm or anything. He was very kind of an asshole and to the point, and it was just like, I get being to the point, but you don't need to be this.
Show compassion.
Yeah. But, yeah, so it was just kind of a whole experience. But aside from that, I rewatched Logan and Phenomena.
Still haven't seen Phenomena.
It's Phenomenon, right? Or is it Phenomena? I can never remember which one.
Is that the Argento movie?
Yeah, the Argento one.
Phenomena, I believe.
Okay, yes. I watched that for the first time, and...
You like it?
Yeah, I liked it. I didn't like it as much as I thought I was going to.
With Jennifer Connelly in it?
Yeah, it's got Jennifer Connelly and Donald Pleasance.
Oh, I didn't realize he was in that. Hi.
I really liked the concept. I'd say overall I liked the movie, but I felt like it could have been so much more. And I kind of hope somebody remakes it.
So not as good as like some other Argento stuff? Or?
No, definitely not. I'd probably say like, of all the Argento I've seen, probably on the weaker side.
Oh, okay.
But I still thought it was a fun concept. Mm-hmm. It's a lot like Worm. So I was thinking of Worm a lot while I was watching it. So I was like, weird. It kind of made me want to reread Worm a little bit. Or continue.
Yeah, I've been almost thinking about continuing it. Okay. And how was Logan on rewatch? I really like Logan.
Yeah, Logan was really good. I still really liked it, so it's good. It's good. And then last night, because like my other comfort, I've got like my two big comfort things. One Piece and Star Trek. So I started watching some more Star Trek a little bit.
Full moon movie. I just realized I checked, it's going to be on their streaming service, so I'm probably going to buy it for a month. But Subspecies 5 is this month.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we might have to pair that up with like some other full moon or something.
Yeah. Maybe just some other Ted, because we didn't finish like all of Ted Nicolau stuff.
I mean, it could be Ted Nicolau. I would probably prefer that, honestly. Well, maybe.
I mean, he did a lot of stuff with full moon, so. Cool. We finished the first season of Superman and Lois.
What do you think?
I think that show's pretty great.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was. I got like partway through the second season before I moved and just couldn't finish it.
We watched the first episode, and I think it's intriguing what they're doing. Maybe we watched the first two. I can't remember. But we're going to probably continue that. But we also started watching Poker Face, which is the new Rian Johnson. With
Natasha
Lyonne.
I don't have Peacock, but I entertained the thought of watching that for a minute, but I was like, oh shit, I don't have the streaming service it's attached to.
I get it through Xfinity, so it's really good. It's really fun.
Yeah, it seems like it would be.
Almost all, like, there is an overarching story, but it's mostly like case of the week kind of thing. And I watched the first 4 episodes. John Darnielle, the guy from the Mountain Goats, he's in the 4th episode.
Oh, nice.
Because him and Ryan Johnson are good friends. But he's pretty good. I'm like, I would love to see him in other stuff.
Yeah, no, he really should.
And I'm like, Ryan Johnson should, especially because he's, John Darnielle has long hair right now and there's like a big pointy beard. I'm like, you should play like a wizard. And Ryan Johnson should make some like Arthurian legend movie. That'd be so funny.
That, or, I mean, I don't know how, I think it'd be really interesting to see this from a Mountain Goats, but, like, music biopics have been really big the last few years, and it's like, I feel like John Darnielle would be like a really interesting choice for trying to make a feature like one of those. But of course, if he did, then I feel like it'd have to be kind of a cut above the rest of them, just because I feel like that's his style.
Yeah.
But you're just back and forth, aren't you?
He wants attention. Yeah. Our cat, my cat is going back and forth, and she keeps walking in front of the mic. She's constantly purring. So I'm sure it'll just go. Yeah. But yeah. So we watched that. What else did I watch? I rewatched Barbershop.
Oh, was Ice Cube in there?
Yeah, that's an Ice Cube one.
Okay.
And that's one of the black centric movies that I watched a lot as a kid. So I just had stuff on DVD and my parents didn't really have.
Yeah, I had the Friday movies on DVD.
Yeah, I watched Friday for the first time 3 years ago and hated it.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's just
I don't think Friday would mesh well with my modern sensibilities, but
I actually still think Barbershop's pretty really good. I really like that movie. I think it's fun and it's wholesome at times and it's dramatic. I think it weaves together its different tones really well. Also, it's just it's so weird because I'm watching this movie, this random comedy from the 2000s, and it's there's interesting shots in it, and I'm like, oh, that's a cool shot, or that's a fun pan, and then I see the trailer for the next Marvel movie. I'm like, why does it look so fucking garbage?
Yeah.
It's just movies used to look good. And I do think there are tons of movies that still look good.
Oh, well, yeah.
But it's just the big things that people watch.
Yeah, no. It's just a lot of plain Jane, just whatever we can do to capture the action in the widest frame so you can people can tell what's going on always and stuff, which isn't a bad practice, but I don't know. It just kind of makes it feel like it's all in a box.
Yeah. And then let me see if I watched anything else. There was, I've been trying to watch more, black movies because it's Black History Month. And that's not really I try to watch a good, diversity of movies year round, but I especially go into it during that. But I haven't watched a ton of movies this month yet.
Yeah.
But I watched the newer Green Lantern movie from last year, the animated one. It's with Jon Stewart. Jon Stewart, the Green Lantern character. He's a black guy. The comedian.
I knew that, but I don't know why my brain just went straight to the fucking comedian. I was like, he was voicing the Green Lantern?
What's unfortunate about the movie is it's barely a Jon Stewart movie. He's the character, but he barely gets any good moments or character development or anything like that. It's mostly an ensemble film. Mm-hmm. And I think it just suffers because of that. Because I think Jon Stewart's really interesting and cool, and then he doesn't get to do a ton. I'm sad. So the movie was okay, but we watched a new M. Night Shyamalan movie, Knock at the Cabin.
How was that?
I loved it. It's my favorite Shyamalan movie, I think. I thought it's gorgeous to look at. Dave Bautista, I think, has his career best performance in it. I think it's phenomenal. And I think it's suspenseful. I thought it was just glorious. I loved it. Hinate also loved it. I want to go rewatch it. And it kind of makes me want to just revisit all of Shyamalan. I'm like, maybe I'll feel different about the ones I didn't like when I was like growing up. Maybe I won't. But that's why I love watching his movies, because I'm like, I have no idea if I'm going to love this or hate it. It's like, maybe. And at the very least, I feel like he is an interesting director. Like, and he's still making things that he finds interesting. He's not. I've never felt. I guess maybe Last Airbender, but I've always felt like he's at least trying to do something, even with like After Earth.
Yeah. I can't really comment on his recent movies because like the newest with Shyamalan I go is like Glass. Yeah, Glass was the last one I saw.
And I think that one's pretty uneven.
Off, so I didn't like it. But I thought Split was pretty good. And, you know, I like Unbreakable.
I think Unbreakable's so good.
Yeah, like that one. That one is like the only one where like I'm like legitimately just like that I've seen where I'm like, yes, Unbreakable.
Yes.
But the rest of them, I think... not to say that I don't think he's got any other good films. I think he's got some like other decent ones, but nothing that like appeals to me majorly. So
that's fair. I watched Living, which is a new movie. It's with Bill Nye. Mm-hmm. And going into it, I'm like, yeah, I knew like briefly that it was it's about a guy who's like dying, and he's like, have I done anything with my life? And I'm like, oh, it's like Akiru. And then I go in there and it's like, based on Akiru. I'm like, oh, okay. So it's just a remake. And I'm like, maybe in like 20 more years, we will have made every single Kurosawa movie, like remade it. There's not a ton, like, but we've done Seven Samurai and Yojimbo and now I guess Akiru. I'm sure there are others. But Living was pretty good. It's unfortunate, though, that Kurosawa was just so good. I'm like, I don't like this as much as I liked it.
Yeah, no, Kurosawa. It's hard to top Kurosawa because it's like, for years I liked Fistful of Dollars. Yeah. And then I watched Yojimbo, and I'm like, I don't think I can ever watch this movie and really respect it. Because it's literally
like, it's like shot. It's like a lot of it. Yeah. And I'm like, I just prefer the version of
If it was the same just general plot, I could accept
it. That's why I like Magnificent Seven fine. Mm-hmm. Even though it's, taking like the basis of Seven. Because at least it's a different movie.
Mm-hmm. And same with like, there's like that episode of the Clone Wars, which is a big like Seven Samurai reference.
There's a Mandalorian episode as well. It's
of course. And it's like, wait a minute.
The Hidden Fortress. Star Wars is just the Hidden Fortress.
I mean, there's a shit ton of shit that's just kind of Seven Samurai. I mean, fuck, even Wano had like a lot of Seven Samurai in its DNA. So it's like, fucking...
Kurosawa had just such a huge cultural impact.
Kurosawa is like, honestly, like... perhaps the greatest filmmaker ever made. Like, he brought a certain energy to cinema that didn't really exist before. And
Ron is, like, still, like, just, like, great. Maybe one of the greatest movies.
I can't show any, like, I can't go to my casual friends and be like, hey, you want to watch, like, an Ingmar Bergman or an Agnes Varda?
But Kurosawa, it's, I don't think it's quite the same, but he had a certain level of, like, auteurism, but he was really accessible. Like, you can show it to anyone.
Oh, yeah.
Same thing with, like, I think Bong Joon-ho is, like, a very similar director. Mm-hmm. Like, I think his movies are extremely accessible.
But they're also, like, technically just, like, if you break it down, it's like, oh, wow, this is fucking genius.
Yeah. Well, I actually think pretty similar things about, like, Park Chan-wook sometimes. But then sometimes it's just, like, the material he adapts. I'm like, no, I'm not going to show this to a random person because they'll be like, you're a fucking freak.
Yeah.
But, like, his movies are accessible, like, watching-wise. Like,
yeah. No, I know his... because he's the one who directed I Saw the Devil, right?
No, that's Kim Ji-woon. Park Chan-wook did Oldboy.
Oh, okay.
Which they feel similar.
And he did the one that we watched for the podcast.
Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance.
Oh, Mr. Vengeance.
Yeah, I don't think we've seen Lady Vengeance still.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Speaking of Kim Ji-woon, though, he is doing a new movie with Song Kang-ho called Cobweb about Song Kang-ho plays a film director who's like getting later in life, and he made a movie like 30 or 40 years ago, and he goes back to recut it because he didn't like the ending or something. And I'm like, oh, interesting. He looks great in it. I'm very excited. I still haven't seen it. It might be available like physically or digitally now, but Broker was the Hirokazu Koreeda movie that came out last year with Song Kang-ho. I don't know if you remember the deep dive we did on Koreeda.
Yeah.
I really want to watch more Song Kang-ho. I love him. Yes. Good director, though, of Bong Joon-ho and Kurosawa. We should watch more Kurosawa.
Yeah, I mean, we did a deep dive and a half.
We did a deep dive, and then we did...
like a little, 3-movie episode or 2-movie episode, something. Because that was... Was Kurosawa our first? No, Bergman was the first. Bergman was the first. I think Kurosawa was the second. Yeah.
But Living was still good. I think it's a good movie, and I think Bill Nye is phenomenal in it. It's just like, it just made me kind of want to rewatch
Akira.
Yeah. And then I did watch, this is maybe the funniest possible double feature of all time. I watched Infinity Pool by Brandon Cronenberg.
Yeah.
And then I watched 80 for Brady.
I'm not aware of what that second one is. And I haven't seen Infinity Pool, but...
80 for Brady is about a bunch of older women who are close to being 80 years old. And they want to go to the Super Bowl to see Tom Brady. And it's kind of like an old person road trip comedy film. And what's surprising is that it's not bad.
Is it like, I mean, is it like shot standardly, or is it like a mock-you?
No, it's shot like standardly.
Oh, okay.
But it's like Sally Field, Jane Fonda, Lily Tomlin, like a bunch of like actresses that I do like, Rita Moreno. So I was like, I'll watch this. I thought it was going to be more like a kind of like book club, which I hated. I tend to watch all these old people comedies.
I vaguely remember the title of that one.
Book club was, came to our theater when we were.
Yeah, I was going to say,
I remember watching it, and I think I came up to you, I'm like, that movie fucking sucks.
Yeah, I just remember a bunch of old people coming up. 1 ticket for book club, please, and a small popcorn.
But 80 for Brady is legitimately kind of funny. If it was about anything other than football, I probably would have liked the movie.
Yeah.
I think Infinity Pool is really fun. I liked it a lot. I don't know if Brandon Cronenberg has as much of a hold on a grasp on what he wants to do as his dad does currently, but this is his third feature. I thought it was really fun. Interesting. I like the concept, and there is an NC-17 cut that's apparently going to be released eventually, and I think the movie needs that. I think it constantly feels like it's being held back by something.
Yeah, I might hold off until that releases. Then.
But apparently Neon's gonna release it physically or something, and I feel like if I watch that, it just feels like it needs to be goopier and grosser.
Yeah, I could see that. I haven't watched any of his movies, but I mean, I've clearly seen his father's movies, and I imagine he's probably more or less following a similar motif.
Yeah. It definitely feels like he's doing his own thing, but he feels like he lived in a house with David Cronenberg for 18 years.
Fair.
He just seems like a little bit of a freak, so it's not a bad thing.
The apple doesn't fall far from the tree sometimes. But yeah.
But yeah, that's what I've been watching this week. Yes.
Yeah. Do we have any questions from Sir Pierre?
We do.
Oh.
I've noticed a lot of the question time. Question 1 from Pierre. I've noticed that a lot of the time, to denote a time jump or serious character growth, creators just give their protagonist a beard, a bigger beard if they already had one. Is it just me, or is this really lazy? Can you think of a time, any time, the opposite has happened in media? Beard to no beard.
Hold on. So, he's saying can you repeat the beginning of that question? What did he say?
So he's noticed a lot of the time to denote time jumps or serious character growth, they just give a character a beard.
I thought he was saying that characters who are time jumpers have beards. And I was like, wait, what?
Bruce Willis does not have a beard.
Yeah,
while you answer that, I need to preheat the oven. I'll be right
back. I know that there are examples of it. Let me search the deep recesses of my mind real quick. Because, I mean, like, some ones that come to mind, I mean, you got that scene, that classic scene from Dragon Ball Super, where, what's it called? They both come out of the hyperbolic time chamber or the room of, spirit and time or whatever they call it. And they've got the beards and they end up, like, shaving it off. Another one that comes to mind... in Logan, actually, he's sleeping and they shave off part of his beard, so he has the chops, the Wolverine chops. It's not quite clean shaven, but I mean, there are examples of it. A lot of them are like, I know that there are though. I'm trying to think, because usually it's like a character's like run down and dumpy in the beginning, and they have a beard, and then they do something to kind of clean up.
Yeah. I don't know if that's ever no, because I do think there is plenty of times where it shows like serious character growth when they do shave off their beard and stuff. But I don't think it's ever I can't think of a moment where it's a time jump.
Where it's a time jump.
Yeah, but he also did say or serious character growth. So I think there's plenty of that where they shave themselves and they're like, I'm back in the game.
Yeah, when it's a time jump, I don't know. Luke Skywalker, The Last Jedi, I mean, that's not a time jump, but it's like a character growth moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
With time jumps specifically, that makes this even harder, because it's like, fuck.
I think the easiest thing to denote someone's, aged is just a beard or longer hair or gray hair, so. Mm-hmm. I don't necessarily think it's lazy, because it's that's... Yeah, what's natural, but if that's the only thing they're doing, if they're not, but
no, I feel that.
Question 2 from Pierre: who is your favorite member of the Sinister Six?
Oh man, probably
It's interesting because it feels like you could just name any character.
Any Spider-Man.
Because at one point they're probably in the Sinister Six. I guess, what's the founding members? It was Doc Ock, Electro, Kraven, Mysterio, Sandman, and Vulture.
Yeah, I guess generally in modern canons you won't see Green Goblin in there a lot. You won't see Venom in there a lot.
Well, Green Goblin wasn't even one of the first either, so...
Yeah. No, I know. But...
the Grim Reaper. Out of the original 6, though, I'd probably say Doc Ock.
Yeah, he's typically the most fleshed out. I mean, if you go for those 60s incarnations, then it's a little more of an even playing field, in which case I might go as far to say, Electro.
Yeah. I feel I like Spider-Man villains a lot, though. There's one of my favorite rogues gallery, and I think any member of the Sinister Six is pretty fun. If we're looking at the original comics, from what I've read, I'd probably say, I still probably like Sandman, maybe.
Sandman's fun.
Because he's just I'm sad.
Yeah, no, he presents a problem for Peter sometimes.
Yeah, I'd say Sandman.
Yeah. No,
or Doc Ock,
yeah, Spider-Man's got a good rogues gallery. I like that there's tiers of villains that he has, and also they're adaptable. It's never I mean, sometimes it's it because obviously it's a large franchise, but quite often it's Peter will defeat them one way because he'll figure out a hack to beat them, and then they'll have to patch that thing that Peter exploited to defeat them, and they kind of grow in that fashion a lot, and I like that. I like that kind of thing. But, yeah. Probably Doc Ock, generally speaking. But yes.
And then question 3. Do you think David Lynch sleeps well? Is his mind overrun with horrors, monsters of the imagination?
I mean,
I actually think at this point he probably sleeps pretty well, and in his waking moments is when the nightmares can become reality.
Yeah, maybe. I know he meditates a lot, so it seems like he's probably pretty mentally comfortable.
Yeah, I feel like maybe when he was younger, but I think like David Lynch in general feels like he has a pretty sound handling of his mind.
You see, Pierre, the madness that he puts on screen doesn't come from his head, but from what he sees in the world.
Oh. But thank you for the questions, Pierre de Pollo. Now, it is time to talk about Barbara Loden and Wanda.
Yes.
Unless you have anything to say about her.
Yeah, I was going to kind of just give a brief overview of who she was, since we're covering all of her films.
So we're talking about Barbara Loden as a person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so she was born in 1932 in North Carolina. Her parents divorced at an early age, so when that happened, she was just dropped off with her grandparents up in the fucking Appalachian Mountains. And they're, like, extremely religious, so she said that, like, her childhood was... what's the quote here?
Cringe?
Yeah, totally. She described her childhood as emotionally impoverished. But, which, yeah, I can kind of see that based off of her work. But yeah, she basically went, when she was like 16, she moved to New York and got into theater. She did some stage plays that she was pretty big in. She did like one show with Robert Redford.
She did, I don't know who it was with, but one of her big first shows was called After the Fall. Mm-hmm. And it was a character that was pretty heavily inspired by like Marilyn Monroe.
Yes, that is a play that she did with her later to be second husband,
Elia Kazan.
Yeah. Yes.
I watched a documentary about her, so I also know.
Okay. Yeah, and he seems like kind of a scumbag. He's the guy who did like A Streetcar Named Desire and On the Waterfront. And he's got a few big hits under his belt. And the
other like big 3 movies she was in were all his movies, or 2 of the big things she was in.
Mm-hmm. But yeah.
Yeah, he seems interesting. They did meet. He seems like he was like 20 years older than her.
I think he was like 30 years older than her. It was like a pretty big age difference.
Which I'm not, she was already 23, so I'm not like...
Yeah, I think...
Still kind of cringe, but...
Yeah, I'm personally, my bar for like, all right, you've unlocked free battle for dating is like 25. It's like, all right, you've probably got a decent handle. You know if someone's going to be trying to fucking scheme you more often than not. I mean, obviously, there are going to be people who don't.
Leonardo DiCaprio just got a new 19-year-old girlfriend.
Yeah, I saw that, and this tweet sums up how I feel about that perfectly.
The one about Pedro Pascal? Yeah.
Yeah.
Where it's the exact same age difference?
Yes, with the girl from The Last of Us. Yeah. And it's like, wow, that's fucking awful. But...
And I was saying to my coworker, if, like, when things happen like this, like, Nicolas Cage also, one of his wives was, like, 19 when they met. But the thing is, Nicolas Cage also dates people that are older. Like, maybe not his age, but, like, 30s, late 20s. But Leonardo DiCaprio, like, exclusively dates, like, young ones.
Yeah, he's picked up a reputation as the... pick him up, and then as soon as they cross that mid-20s, he drops them. And it's like, that's not a good look, bro.
Like, if you just sprinkled in some ladies in their 30s or 40s, people would probably leave you alone.
Yeah, probably. But, I mean, yeah. Fucking yikes. Anyway. But yeah, so she was married to her first husband, had a kid, and then, I saw that there was an affair. Wikipedia does not get into the specifics, so I don't know who did what. But yeah, shortly after, she married her second husband. And yeah, it seems like he was a bit of a manipulator. Like he wrote like an autobiography later in life and like kind of reflected on her as a person and his time with her. And it didn't... According to this, I didn't read the book, but apparently, like, a lot of it was, like, pretty scummy stuff he was saying. Like, let me see. me find the actual section where it talks about that. Yeah. Kazan could be contemptuous when describing his relationship with Loden. In his autobiography, he revealed his desire and inability to control her. He wrote about Loden with a mix of affection and patronization, emphasizing her sexuality and her backcountry feistiness. And in a condescending way, he bemoaned that Loden had depended on her sexual appeal to get ahead, and that he was afraid of losing her. And yeah, so... But
interesting. That's interesting because... So... The documentary that I watched is called I Am Wanda, and it was filmed in 1980. Mm-hmm. And it was this person that made it. She had seen Wanda, and then she's like, I have to talk to this woman. So like 10 years later, she was like, I'm going to interview you, and they do interviews, and I think it's the best movie I watched for this episode, unfortunately, because... Barbara Loden doesn't reveal this, but she's dying. Like, she dies 2 months after these interviews. So there's, like, an air of, like, horrific sadness to everything she says, and you're not really sure how to place it until you realize, oh, wait, she dies. But there are interviews with Elia Kazan, and he says pretty similar things, but it doesn't seem as condescending, and I don't know if it... Yeah. Because it seems like he's... Like, there's a genuine fear. He's like, I think she's, like, too beautiful, you know? Like,
to be fair, and that's why I prefaced when I started reading this that I hadn't read his book, that I'm just reading the Wikipedia. Those aren't quotes from the book. That's, like, the quote on the Wikipedia. Oh. So someone's, like, describing his book, and they're describing it that way. So... Which fair, it might read
like that. I wouldn't be surprised if he got he seemed like, but there are cute things in the interviews where he's like, when she wanted to make her movie, I'm like, okay, I'll do whatever you need. I'll pick up the kids. I'll do whatever you did for me. Like when I was making my movies and we were raising our kids, I'll do that for you too. Because he's like, and I knew she wouldn't want help with the movie. Yeah. And she's like, yeah, absolutely not. I want it to be my movie.
Yeah, no.
Because she wasn't like fiercely independent. Which, you know.
Yeah. And I saw that there was like something somewhere on the Wikipedia page. I read it earlier, but apparently he like didn't like her wearing pants and stuff. And that's referenced in Wanda, because there's that scene where
he's like, no pants, no slacks. Yeah. That guy looks like Elia Kazan.
Oh, does he?
Kind of. Okay. Elia Kazan, I don't know how to I don't think he has a mustache, but they look kind of similar.
Yeah, I'm sure that choice is probably intentional. But yeah, apparently Barbara Loden read like a newspaper article.
She read about an article.
A woman who robbed a bank with her husband, and when she got her jail sentence, she said, like, thank you.
Yeah.
And that, like, just really kind of spoke to Barbara, so she ended up writing the script and taking it around, and none of the studios were really interested, but she found a, like, filmmaker friend who was like, I'll fund this.
Yeah, she wasn't even, like, from the, like, direct quote she was talking about in the movie, or in the documentary, she was mostly just like, yeah, I got this, like, idea, I'm just kind of shopping around. Like she wasn't even asking the guy, and he's like, I'll fund it. And she's like, oh.
Yeah. And, yeah, she's really significant. I think she's, like, one of the, like, only female directors from, like, that time period, really, that at least got her work, like, released. And the top of her Wikipedia page describes her as being the female counterpart to John Cassavetes.
I haven't seen, like, I'm like, who said this?
Yeah, I'm like, apparently it was Richard Brody of The New Yorker.
Oh, okay.
But, yeah, I haven't watched any of his movies, so I can't really...
I also haven't, but I've seen snippets. I get it, like, tonally, because they...
I feel like
that might have just been an excerpt he said in a review for Wanda, being like, she's like the... And then they're like, that's...
I could see it. I could see that. That was pretty common back.
But, yeah, that... if you have an hour to kill, the documentary's only an hour, and it's really sad, because...
her life was pretty sad.
Yeah.
She ended up drifting apart from Kazan, and then they were thinking about divorcing, but they just didn't get around to it before she died. But I don't think he was like present for her death or anything. Like I'm pretty sure they were separated. Well, from what I was reading,
I don't know because they seem to be like she was doing it like an acting class. She was teaching acting in the documentary, and he was like there, and that was like 2 months before.
Okay.
And they, at that point, they knew she was dying, so I'm not sure. Maybe they were estranged, but I feel like he was probably there. But,
maybe, yeah.
She had an acting teacher. One of the final interviews was with this guy who, him and her were gonna do like a one-woman show. He was gonna help her like produce it and write it, and, that was gonna be like the big next like play she did, but she died right before it. And like literally like 2 weeks before she died, she called him and they talked for hours, and she just like went over her life, and she was like, my life fucking sucks. She was just like, the life of an artist is horrible, and it's like nonstop horrible, and I just wanted to like make something lasting, and I'm gonna die, and I wanted to make more movies, and I wanted to have a big impact. And I was just like, holy fuck. I'm like, I finished the documentary on my lunch break, and I was just like, oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, fucking. Yeah, it's sad that we don't live in a world where we did get more Barbara Loden.
Because, like, I enjoyed all three of the things we watched for this, but it's like, what if she was able to do more things? Because she had a vision. I get it. I see it. Yeah, no. But, yeah, and with that, are you ready to dive into some of her work? Talk about Wanda from 1970.
Yeah. So, this is her only feature-length directing gig that she got, and this was the one that was based on the robbery that we described earlier. It's basically about this woman who is getting divorced from her coal miner husband. She just kind of walks in and fully gives him all the responsibility because he's like in court. She's late for the custody of her children. And he's making a case the whole time, and she basically just walks in like smoking a cigarette and is like, give him the divorce, give him the kids. They're better off. She's got very low self-esteem, very, low self-image of herself. So she ends up kind of just bar-flying around for a little bit, and she goes and she gets like her last sum of money from her last job, which she got fired from being too slow, and she goes to see a movie, and she falls asleep, and somebody like takes everything out of her purse, and she's just having a bad run of luck, and she ends up just kind of going into a bar to use the bathroom, and turns out it's actively being robbed when she goes in there, but she doesn't realize because the guy the bartender is like down on the floor with a towel on his face, so he can't see the face of the person robbing very clearly. And the guy robbing it,
Mr. Dennis, I think.
Dennis, yes, that's what it was.
I think his name's Will Dennis.
Yeah, something like that. But yeah, she calls him Mr. Dennis the whole time. So this Mr. Dennis guy is robbing the bar, and I don't know, Barbara's
I don't know what his first name is. He's credited as Mr. Dennis.
Wanda basically is just in there, and she's like, can I get a beer? Can I get some, I guess she's just eating chips and stuff. But he's ready to flee. He's robbed the place, so he just kind of, grabs her, and they go to, a diner somewhere else, and he's like, basically just kind of takes her along for his wild ride across the country, robbing random places. He kind of works his way up. He starts with smaller places like that bar, convenience store, and eventually by the end of the film he tries to rob a big city bank. But yeah, I'd say the real meat of the movie is probably the relationship or the dynamic between him and Wanda.
This movie reminds me a lot of Vincent Gallo movies like Buffalo 66.
Yeah,
or even, actually, it kind of reminds me of the Brown Bunny as well.
Yeah, that specific shot where he like pulls over on the side of the highway and he tells her to get out and she's just kind of like staring at him. I'm pretty sure like there's a reference to that in Buffalo 66.
Which is weird because Vincent Gallo doesn't seem like the type of guy who would watch a movie made by a woman.
No, I can see him being the guy who would watch a movie made by a woman with like his dick in his hand the whole time, and after the end of it, he'd be like, "Hey, that's low-key kind of brilliant. I'm glad I thought of that." But maybe not. I should probably not. Well, I don't know. He's kind of a piece of shit.
That guy's a dick, which is annoying because I think both those movies are really good.
Yeah,
I know you don't like the Brown Bunny, but Buffalo 66 is really good.
Yeah, I really
and
like
I wish we could watch that other movie that he was like, no, I'm not gonna. You guys didn't like my. You guys didn't like Brown Bunny, so you can't watch Promises Written in Water.
It's like the guy who bullied you the most is dead. Just release the movie, but. Yeah, because it was, oh god, I'm blanking on his name. Big Critic Daddy, the one that everyone loves.
Roger Ebert?
Roger Ebert, yeah, it was Roger Ebert. Sometimes I get Roger Ebert and Leonard Maltin mixed up. And it's like, I don't know why. They're really not that much alike. But anyway, yeah, so basically he's just very, very controlling, he abuses, like, he hits her in the face at one point, and he doesn't hit her again, like, afterwards, but you can tell that like, implication is kind of looming. Yeah. But it seems like her character might kind of like it, like, she's kind of drawn to it, because he also kind of builds her up in his own toxic way, that I think she personally resonates with. It's like that two broken people kind of romance. Yeah.
Which he's the worst. He's like a horrible person.
No, yeah.
She is like obviously manipulated throughout this.
Yes. Because there's that scene where like, because she gives some of the spiel to him earlier in the film where he's like, "Where's your husband? Where's your kids?" And she's like, I'm no good. He took them. I'm no good." And he kind of plays on that because he kind of criticizes her. He's like, if you don't want nothing, you don't get nothing. If you don't have nothing, you might as well be dead. Like, it's like a very materialistic guy. And yeah, he basically just views her as another object for his collection. Kind of uses her, dresses her up. He's like, I don't like your hair. You need a hat. You can't wear pants. Also, you're going to do this for me, and you're going to help me in this robbery. And she helps him in one robbery where they're like, basically going to the guy who, like, works at the bank and, like, abducting him.
Saying, like, we have a bomb, we're gonna blow up your family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it turns out at the end of the movie, you find out that they're, like, not real explosives. They're just, like, look convincing. Mm-hmm. Which, yeah, I mean, they look... I mean, obviously, it's, like, a 70s movie.
Even if a bomb, like, looked fake, I'd probably be like, okay. What if it just looked...
It had a clock, a curly wire, and like
I'll believe you there.
Gray slab of clay that looks like it could be gunpowder.
I'm not taking any risks. I'm not going to die.
Far. But yeah, so he's basically like, you're going to meet me at the bank and you're going to be like my getaway driver or something. And then she ends up getting lost. And in that time, he ends up getting in a shootout with the cops and he dies. And then she basically kind of walks up to the scene like right after it happens and is just kind of like in the crowd like, fuck.
She seems pretty distraught too. Like
you can tell that she did like this guy.
Well, and maybe just because she finally felt like her life had a purpose. She felt like she had direction.
No,
and she felt like,
definitely.
And the way she talks about it, she's like, this woman just wants someone to care for her. Even if it's this, like, authoritarian, like, cares about you only because you can get stuff done kind of view. Like, at least that was better than her husband who just kind of ignored her and her kids who just ignored her.
Yeah.
And it's just like all of her movies are, there's like this listlessness, this lack of meaning in your life, this, aching pain inside you that you feel like, what's the point of living? It's like, holy fuck.
Yeah, no, her films are very depressing.
Which I enjoy this one quite a bit. I do think that, maybe it's just the way I watched it. Maybe I just wasn't in the mood, but it is pretty slow.
No, the first time I watched this a couple years ago, I walked away from it going like, I acknowledge that was pretty good, but it felt like it was like lacking something, like the pizzazz to make it all kind of come together. And I still think I might feel that way, but I found it to be a much easier and more enjoyable watch the second time through, kind of understanding the direction it was going to go.
Yeah. She used, besides her and Mr. Dennis, everyone else in the movie is a non-professional actor. Mm-hmm. She liked working with those people because it was easier to, kind of build them up. And I think there's a certain amount of, like, rawness and genuineness when you have regular people.
And also...
Yeah, but I also there's a certain there's a certain quality you get when you pull people who, do this for fun, or like they can't do this for a job. They have to go back to their 9 to 5 after this.
Yeah, no, I can think of like a list of reasons why that could be more compelling.
But yeah, this is a pretty low budget movie. There was the whole crew, I think, was 4 people. Like it was her, it was the cinematographer who was also the editor, Nicholas something. There was an interview with him. And he was talking about how like it was one of the hardest like shoots he did, but also one of the most fun. Because it's just like, it was so collaborative, and it was from the very beginning. Every day you would show up and you'd be like, okay, what can we build together today? Like what can we shoot? He didn't do a whole lot after this, it seems. He did, he shot one Elia Kazan movie like 2 years after this. And he shot Frontier Experience and Boy Who Liked Deer as well. Which, what's unfortunate about those is I watched there's on the Criterion channel for this movie, there's an updated, they did go and like clean it up.
Okay, yeah, I have.
Which is probably the version you watched.
No, I mean, probably a couple years ago, I ended up watching just an upload on YouTube this time around, just because I watched it partially while I was at work today. So.
But it's unfortunate that like you probably can't find the original reels of like the other two because they look rough. But like,
I think the version of Frontier Experience I watched wasn't too bad.
Yeah, that's probably the one that's available on Criterion as well. But
the Boy Who Liked Deer.
I'm like, I should have watched this on like my phone, like legitimately, because then I could have been like, this is fine.
Yeah, I did watch it on my phone.
Yeah, I watched it on the TV. I'm like, what?
And even on my phone, I could still tell. I was like, oh,
I should have put it like across the room on my phone.
It's like, oh, somebody ran this through Game Boy? Water and pixels. Gross.
But yeah, I think Wanda has a lot to offer. I think it's a little. I think its budget does work against it at times. And it felt like as they were filming it, they kind of changed the script every once in a while because of that acting. There were times where they're like, we cannot get a non-professional actor to like pull off this scene. So they had to rewrite it, which I think makes for like an interesting shift in the movie as they go. And it also felt like the editor and the cinematographer, he hadn't done a feature before this. So, and this was Barbara Loden's first like movie she was directing. So the first cut they made of the movie was like 3.5 hours long. They're like, oh no, what do we do? And then they're like, what they would cut, they would try to add every single scene they shot, even though they got rid of it. They would try to make every scene work. Which is interesting. I would like to movies like this, I would love to see like the footage, these shots they didn't like go into. Like that's why I think deleted scenes are interesting. And it's like there are so many like reels that were never used for so many old movies. I'm like, we're never gonna get those. Yeah, they're not anywhere. Like they probably got destroyed.
Yeah, there's a YouTuber I watch who does he covers like a lot of like old 80s kind of and previous stuff, but. He's called Hats Off Entertainment, and he was the guy who kind of like got the ball rolling on that Planes, Trains, and Automobile extended cut that they released not too long ago, because he made a YouTube video that was like, hey, did anybody realize that this movie was actually like 4 hours long and they cut it down? And he like explained a lot of the plot lines and stuff that were cut but were shot. And yeah, they did that.
Did they actually release that?
Yeah, no, they released, I don't know if it's like an alternate version, like a recut of the film, or if it's just a new Blu-ray that has like all those scenes as like supplementary material. I haven't watched it, but I know that that stuff's out there now. But he also talked about like a lot of the cut stuff for Home Alone, but I don't know. I don't think we need a fucking 4-hour cut of every John Hughes movie that ever existed. But I
don't even know if we need the regular. No, I'm just kidding.
With some of them, yeah. I mean, John Hughes is very beloved. I think he is pretty decent. I think it's very much a time and place kind of a thing. But yeah, his stuff's pretty accessible though. So. But,
yeah, it looks like they're all just deleted scenes. I don't think they're, like, it's where you can watch the deleted scenes.
But yeah, like, there's this huge subplot that's cut from Planes, Trains, and Automobiles where he keeps saying, like, yeah, I'm with, like, I think John Candy's character's name is, like, Dell in the movie. He's like, yeah, I'm with Dell. And she thinks he's cheating on him the whole time. So when he shows up at the end, that's what that, like, really heartwarming, like, smile that she gives is, because she's like, oh, he wasn't cheating on me with John Candy, which if you watch the movie, you know that's definitely not true. There's that famous scene where they're sharing the motel bed.
And they're naked.
No, but they wake up with some insertion. But, yeah, it's yeah, I haven't watched that movie, and we watched it for the podcast.
Yeah, we did a John Candy. I think that was the first actor deep dive.
Yeah.
2 years ago?
Yeah, it was a couple.
We've been doing this for a long time.
We have.
Pierre's been listening.
He has.
Just Pierre.
Philip listens. He just doesn't send in questions.
That's right. Philip listens.
Philip listens.
A couple of my coworkers do listen.
Yeah. He listens in like batches though while he's at work.
Yeah,
so he doesn't keep up week to week.
Yeah, that's fine.
But yeah.
I think my brother occasionally listens. There are people that listen. We have the listeners.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, sometimes I'll like see that we do get a decent like handful of views within like the first hour. I'm like, oh, nice.
They care. They really care about us.
Yeah. It's not like we're the only podcast that they're able to listen to or anything. But, yeah, Wanda. I like Wanda, but yeah, like I said, I feel like it's missing like there's not enough like sugar in the recipe or something. Like it just needs.
But like you can see like for a feature like a directorial debut, it's really good, and it's like you see like man, this next movie they make is going to be great. It's like.
Yeah, no.
Make one.
Yeah, it's like, I really wish that she could have had more opportunities in her lifespan or had a longer lifespan to make more movies.
She was young. She was 48 when she died.
Yeah. You know. Yeah, fuck. But, you know, I like Wanda. It's not for everyone, but I think that a lot of people would probably connect with this movie if they did take the time to watch it.
Sad movies, or you like, I don't know, something like maybe Linklater's, like more grounded movies, like the sadder stuff. Like if you like Boyhood, you'd probably like Wanda.
Yeah, I mean, if you like a lot of like just realism in film and that kind of genre.
So Pierre, don't watch this movie.
Pierre would not like this movie. He would get 5 minutes in and be like, what's going on? When is something exciting going to happen? You'd get to the end and you'd be like, they're robbing a bank. This is going to be exciting. And you'd be like, that was the most boring bank robbery I've ever seen.
But yeah, I'd give Wanda a 7.
Yeah, I think that might have been what I gave it back then. I don't know. None of my ratings exist anymore. So...
let's talk. I don't actually know which one was next, but they came out the same year, 1975. So let's just talk about the Frontier Experience, because that's the one I watched after Wanda.
Yeah.
Deeply depressing. Both of these movies were made to be shown to children. Like, they were educational films. Made to show the boy who liked deer.
I admit there are a lot of kids who probably should watch The Boy Who Liked Deer, because it's like...
Well, that was supposed to be about, like, vandalism and, like, stuff, and I'm like, what the fuck? Did they broadcast this anywhere? Because I don't know. They were made for educational purposes.
Yes, I don't really I mean, vandalism, I don't think. Like, maybe if that was, like, just the loose topic of, like, yes, you have to make a film about vandalism. And she's like, well, I'm actually going to make a film about, like, the cycles of misery.
Yeah, no, that's...
But, like, yeah, fucking... Huh, interesting. But, yeah, no, I can think of some little fucking, like... When I was that age, I knew shitheads like that who it's like, oh, yeah, no, you could probably... I mean, I don't think they would have changed their ways after watching it. People who are kind of behave like the kids in those movies. I don't.
Well, and it's like I don't even think that. I guess we'll talk about the Frontier experience first, but I think I have more thoughts on the boy who liked deer.
Yeah, that one's a lot more provocative than the Frontier experience.
I think the Frontier experience is just like, hey, here's the Frontier experience. It fucking sucked, and everyone was sad, and everyone died.
Yeah,
like that's. Much. It's, like, horrifying. I'm like, what the fuck?
Basically about this guy. So the government was giving away plots of land.
Because they wanted, to kick Native Americans out. Mm-hmm. So they're just like, what if we just keep pushing them? We just keep going, hey, you want this land that we have no right to? Here you go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And fucking... Yeah, basically, Barbara Loden's character is, like, the wife to this husband who's moving the family out. And, like, night one, they get there, and their new neighbors roll in from 6 miles over. And they're like, hey, neighbors, by the way, there's a squatter in this other house. And the husband's like, oh, can I please go take care of this with him? And he's like, she's just like, yeah, sure.
Then he dies.
Yeah, and then immediately, like, they show up, and he's like, yeah, we showed up, and he just started shooting and shot your husband, and he's dead.
So, like, 2 days in, she's like, I guess I have to raise my face. She's just immediately like, what am I gonna do?
Yeah, so she it seems like the oldest son is kind of preparing to step into, like, the role of man of the house, because that was a big thing back then, I guess, but... turns out he's really good at running, so this guy's like... Dude, your kid's, like, great at running. I do, like, running competitions. I travel all over the place. I'll take him with and get him a bunch of money. And she's just like...
Man, Frontier life, they really had nothing to do.
Yeah, it's like, wow, I mean, that sounds kind of sketch, but I really don't have much of an option.
Like, I guess. Because if not, we'll all just die.
Yeah. So...
She almost dies.
Yeah, no. So he leaves... And yeah, she's left taking care of her 2 other kids. She's got a couple of kids.
It's 3 or 4. They might have 5. No, I think it's 3, because I think there's 2 younger ones and then the older
Yeah, I think
sister.
that with the brother who went away to run, it was 4. So yeah, she's got like 3 other kids, and there's like, she literally can't feed them all. Like, there's a point where she has to give up her own meal to appease her youngest, who's still hungry. And, like, it's cold at night. They don't have good heating. They've picked all the sticks dry in the field area around them, so it's like, they're just kind of running on fumes, and right when it's like, basically every single guy within, like, the 20-mile radius around her is like, you wanna fuck?
Is
everything good out?
Yeah, Hinata was probably like, no, you can't go out.
Oh.
To the cat.
I thought somebody fell for a second. I was like, what?
No, she was stomping to get the cat away, probably. But it sounds scary.
What's it called? But yeah, they're basically like, oh, I'll be a father to your children now. And she's just like...
Yeah, you want to come move out? We're gonna get a different plot.
And she's just like, no, I gotta wait here for my one son who probably isn't coming back. And yeah, she's, they're at wit's end. They're about, things are looking at their most bleak. And then suddenly... her house is invaded by a Native American who takes some of their food. I think that she's trying to maybe make a split down the middle, like, share commentary, because he like takes like half the food on the plate and then she takes it back. I don't know if that's meant to be like emblematic of anything bigger or if that's just a coincidence. Read into it what you will. But yeah, then he basically just kind of leaves after that, and he's like, all right, I got a couple like meat like jerky pieces.
Yeah.
I don't know what was on the plate. It was something though. So he leaves, and then basically she's just like close to death. She's been like coughing. She's sick at night. Her like eldest daughter has been taking care of her seemingly, but she's like out in the field one day doing work, and then her one son calls on the distance. He's back. He's got money. So they buy farming supplies and cows and stuff, and they decide to stay put.
The like sudden jump to like everything being okay kind of is like, did she die? Is this heaven? I don't think it is, but it like almost feels that way. I'm like, this feels too nice to wrap up this story.
Yeah, I feel like the hopeful ending kind of like.
I think that might be like more the educational thing. I can't kill the whole family.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Now that you mention that again, I forgot it was an education.
I'm pretty sure it is. I know. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. Like, oh, we need somebody to direct a couple of children's shorts, and I mean, if she was starving for work at that point, then it would make sense that she would like jump onto those opportunities. Yeah. Because it's like, I don't know. Yeah, because I don't know. The hopeful vibes from this era of history. It's like, I don't know. I don't view it as a very hopeful time.
Yeah, I don't. I think this movie. I think the film itself is like really good. It's bleak and sad and like meaningful, and there's like this. It's the same thing where it's like, is life like we're not doing anything? Like, what's the meaning? What are we doing? But she has this like enduring hope. She's really trying to work hard for her family in this one. Mm-hmm. So I think this is really good, actually. I just think the ending's kind of like, what? Out of nowhere.
Yeah, it is kind of spontaneous and sudden.
But like outside of that, I think it's pretty great, actually.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it's just the real world politics. I don't like that it's like, it ends on that like, well, maybe one day with enough love and care from all the people who just moved to this area, we'll be able to thrive it into a real civilization.
Yeah.
It's like that, because there's like obviously the dark undercurrent of like, you know, genocide.
What do you mean the real
colonization?
No,
shit,
I get it, but like when you're looking at it from the lens of a person like who's living in the frontier, that's what they like legitimately believe.
I know,
like,
so it's
which
like,
is pretty like, what the fuck? But
yeah,
I think as an educational piece, it has enough like, you know, even this person who's supposed to be like your savage enemy is just like, I just need some food, just like you. And I'm not even going to take all your stuff, even though I could. Mm. But you know a frontiersman would just shoot you in the head, you know?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So.
Yeah, because that's what I thought originally when they were going to get the squatter. I was like, oh, is it going to be like a Native American in the house or something? Just hiding out, trying to get some like warmth from the wind or something. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. Didn't want to hide somewhere too obvious, like, you know, obviously you had a TP up. I don't know. I don't know how, to be fair, I don't know like how proactive they were in going out to like, because I know that they got like pushed back over like periods of time too. So it's like, I don't know how proactive like a lot of the fucking frontiersmen were going out there back in those days, but yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I thought the Frontier Experience was pretty good. I think the ending was a little bit jarring. Maybe could have used like a couple extra minutes, but not bad.
But if this was, I mean, I don't know if it was made for TV or made to show in schools or something, but it's like, it seems like a runtime. It's like, yep, this is for TV. Or this is like a small little episode or something. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'd probably also give this one a 7 because I think it's like really interesting and
No, I think I was actually I like when I watch a short and it feels like it's a good short.
I also think this one, if she had made, I think this could have been adapted into something longer. Like if she wanted to do like, she has a good grasp on like the feeling of like loneliness in this situation. So I think like. Mm-hmm. she could have adapted something like this into a full-length film.
No, yeah, I definitely think she could have. Yeah, this would have been like a good proof of concept.
I think she could have done like a good Western. Like a good, like, sad Western.
Yeah, because, I mean, this is a Western.
Yeah.
It's just not, like, that fantastical Western.
Let's go backflip.
But, yeah. But, yeah, no, I like this one quite a bit. I would probably... I mean, if you're interested in checking out Barbara Loden, this is probably the most accessible thing out of what we watched today. I could see probably most people getting through this. It's not quite the gut-wrencher that the next one's going to be, and it's not quite as slow-paced as Wanda would be to most people, so... Yeah.
But yeah, let's talk about The Boy Who Liked Deer, which I think is maybe her most complete proof of concept. Like, because they all capture the same, like, tone, all these movies. But this one, like... really made me feel like shit.
Yes, I agree.
I was just like, because I don't even like the main character. She had a good way of like capturing this kid in a way that I'm like, I don't really blame him for any of this. Like it just really feels like he needs someone to care about him. And I'm like, I feel so bad.
Yeah, like he's doing like shit where it's like it's like, oh, this is bad, but like the big thing that happens at the end, like the big thing, wasn't intentional, wasn't even necessarily his fault. Yeah. Like, it might have been one of the other
why the fuck would you put poison right next to your food?
I was also wondering that. I was like, what? Like, is it to keep the rats who might... But it's like, wouldn't they just go around it and eat?
Yeah, why don't you put, like, a line in front of the door or something?
Yeah, and even then, it's like... I don't know. That's it's just very weird, and it's like, okay, we'll get to the point with it.
So it's about a kid. He's late middle school or early high school. 13 to 16 probably. And he's going through. He likes deer. For opening scene, he's feeding deer. He's waiting for the guy to show up.
Oh, you might. There's a summer program, and we have a youth
And he seems like instantly, he's like, I'm interested. Like there's something he's interested in. We see him at literally the height of his happiness at the very beginning. And then the rest of the movie, he's wandering. He doesn't, he just goes with the flow. He doesn't care about anything. We see the next scene, he's fallen asleep in class, he's... the teacher is obviously like he's interested in his subject, but he has no idea how to teach these kids. Apparently,
it seems. I don't even know because it's like the argument of like the one size fits all. Because it definitely seems like there are kids who are very engaged in the class. These are just kind of disruptive kids that he hasn't found out how to properly get through to, and instead of trying to get through, he tends to single them out and kind of shame them in front of the class.
There's a sense of like making these kids out to be like an enemy of the class when it's like it's your responsibility to teach them. These kids don't everyone learns differently. It's just like this. I worked at an elementary school for a year, and they're like, I could see the teachers doing the same thing. I'm like, what the fuck?
Oh, yeah, no,
these are children.
Like
you need to I had plenty of teachers as well. And I was a pretty good student. I was goofball, but I was a pretty good student for the most part. But it was interesting because I was in a few classes with a lot of people that were not necessarily held back, but they were in like a lot of lower classes outside of like these electives. And then my non-electives, I was in like AP and honor classes, so I could see both sides of it. And I'm just like, these teachers don't give a shit about these kids unless they're like super smart. And it's so depressing because I think
super brown.
I think all of these kids had there was an opportunity for them to excel just as much as other people. There's no stupid people. There's no. Everyone has a chance to be smarter in certain ways.
For the most part,
I think a lot of like the educational system will just completely fail children. And I think that's, the main thing is here. I think Barbara Loden was like, fuck you. I'm not going to make a movie about like, oh, vandalism bad. I'm going to be like, vandalism is the direct result of people not caring for children as much as they should, pretty much.
I don't know directly where this stems from. I've always heard this, but it's that theory that like, you know, crime is the result of like flaws in your society. It's like,
yeah.
True.
Yeah. It's like they're...
I mean,
like,
obviously...
Someone's stealing food? What if we fed people?
Yeah, and obviously, I mean, there are fringe examples. You're going to have fucking some psychopaths, like serial killers and shit.
Yeah, but like...
They're not...
As a whole...
The
vast majority of crime is a direct, you know, a reflection of your society and how you treat your citizens, how you treat your people.
And shit, I mean, you could even argue that, like, even those bigger crimes like serial killers, I mean, they still are part of the system and potentially even parts of the system contributed to, like, their bigger crimes, although that gets into more gray areas.
Yeah,
I'm not going to fucking dance off into.
I think what hit me the hardest in this short, as opposed to the other one, is in the other two, the lead character is an older person. She's like in her 30s, you know? Mm-hmm. So you don't see like all the things that led to her being this way. While when you have a kid who is in school, who you actively are seeing the things that are failing him and making him feel like his life is hopeless.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you're actively being like, no, this is the thing that's going to make him like, this is the thing that makes him sad.
Yeah, because, I mean, you see that, like, his parents are pretty much absent, at least throughout the short. Like, they're off doing work, or what did the note say? Like, it was like a dentist thing?
Yeah, and he was really pissed at that.
Yes.
I'm like, Jesus.
Yeah, it's like, fuck, okay. But he
has the deer.
Yeah, it's like he doesn't connect well with people, but, you know, these animals haven't done him any wrong.
Well, and he seemed like he connected well enough with the guy who took care of the deer.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just like, it's just like he can't, you know, he's not learning in a school environment, but he's learning in this, like, nature environment. Like,
yeah.
You know.
But even then, it seems like the guy with the deer might have just been, like, a bridge to get to the deer, because, like, at the end, he doesn't... I think of that ending scene when he's, like, yelling. I was like, hey, kid, come back. Like, I get you like the deer, but you don't like seeing him like this. I mean, give me a hand. And it's like, he's not really understanding the kid. Which, fair. I mean, obviously, if he did understand the kid, he would probably be very pissed off in that moment. But, yeah, so, basically, he's acting up in school. Him and his couple friends fucking, smart off in class one day. And he's like, all right, you think it's so funny? Go to the dean. By the way, you guys are failing my class. That means summer school, which automatically means the kid can't do his summer deer program that he wanted to do. So he gets real puffy about that. And
they storm off and they go to this deer sanctuary thing, and they are fooling around. They open this like shed, and he's like stabbing the food to get out his frustrations, but he also knocks over this rat poison. They don't like see it. Mm-hmm. So this feed's mixed in with this like rat poison. And then they just like leave because they hear the guy coming. Yeah. And then they sneak back into the school after hours. And they vandalize. It's vandalism. No. Yeah, they destroy like his prized book that's like signed by the author. Yeah. And they're like throwing books and destroying desks. And then the two kids he's with like run out when they hear the teacher, and he like hides behind.
Yeah, he forgets
like
his jacket, so he has to go grab it, and he can't get out in time, so he hides back there, and he basically like sees how much his actions have like broken his teacher.
Yeah, his teacher's like crying and sobbing.
Yeah, he sees his favorite book just down in the dirt beneath a potted plant that they like busted on the wall, and it just shattered over top of it, and it's just like he's just there kneeling and sobbing over this book, and it's like,
Jesus.
Shouldn't have left your fucking book there, bro.
Yeah, that is like, why did you do that?
Yes, I mean, obviously.
Like, these other books I get, but the one that you're like, especially after you tell these kids, I'm gonna fail you.
Yeah.
Like,
I wouldn't have even... I would have been like, I have a signed copy of this at my house. Here, I'll bring you this fucking...
Here's a photo.
Trade paperback, mass market fucking version, because kids... I mean, obviously not all kids, but, like, you're gonna have kids in that group environment who don't respect your shit and would probably fuck it up. So it's like, yeah, I don't know. But yes, that doesn't change the fact that what the kids did was wrong, and it's a very significant scene. Like, I was like, fuck, that's sad. And then he goes back to the deer place the next morning, and oh no, all the deer are fucking...
Or like half of them are dead or dying.
Yeah.
He's like, I have no idea how many got into it.
Yeah, and it's like...
And the kid just runs off and like cries on a tree and it ends.
Yeah.
And it's like, this also ends the most like horrifically, because even in like Wanda, you know, there's like a decent chance she'll be arrested because that one guy knew her face, but there's a decent chance she'll be okay. And
well,
she'll like find some sort of purpose.
Well,
I don't know.
I don't know if you remember the actual ending to Wanda, but it ends kind of similarly to this, because she's at that bar with that cop and then he tries to assault her and she runs into the woods and cries. Yeah, that's how Wanda ended.
What the fuck?
Yeah, I don't...
Did I not watch the full... Hold on. What happened? Hold on a second.
It's a quick scene. I was kind of spacing out partway through it. I'm like, wait, who is this guy she's in the red car with? And then I like had to rewind it and I was like, oh, but yeah, yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about that ending. I probably would have ended it maybe with her at the... No, it doesn't end with her in the woods crying. She goes back to a bar after that. She, like, stumbles back to a bar, and then she's sitting in the stool with, like, those random people.
Oh, that's right, okay.
But, yes, she does go into the woods and cry.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah.
I was just very tired when I watched that, so...
that's fair.
Yeah, no. But then, like, Frontier Experience, like, we're fine now! Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, this one I think is maybe my favorite of the three.
No, I agree.
It's just so sad that it looks so bad.
Yeah.
Because I think it's shot fine. Like the way they shoot it, I love the back and forth when they're like throwing books and stuff. Like it should look good.
Yeah, there's a lot of... Yeah, I think that this is her most solidly, like, written and cohesive thing. I don't know if it's necessarily, like... It's the shortest thing that we watched, and it didn't have, like, any sort of, like, fluff padding or, like, tones, like, shots. It was a lot of just pretty straight to the point. So I don't know if it was just that all together that made it feel, like, more cohesive to me, or... I don't know. But, yeah, I really liked this one. It was definitely... To me, it felt like the most provocative out of, like, the three works. Mm-hmm. Definitely the most trying to... get that fucking reaction out of you. And yeah, fucking, it certainly did. Watching those deer fucking flailing at the end is not fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a really good short. Fucking Criterion already released Wanda, so it's like, I don't think we'll ever get like remastered shorts on like a Criterion DVD in the future. Which is really a shame. And also, like you were saying earlier, they probably don't have the reels to these anymore. So it's like...
Yeah.
But, I mean, if possible, whether through... And I know that there's kind of a conversation to be had around this, but like... I mean, AI upscaling has been a thing in recent years, and that technology is only going to improve. So, I mean, maybe one day you can at least... have a YouTube rip of this movie that looks decent.
Well, as long as like a person's doing it, I don't like you can use AI as a tool, but you kind of need like.
Oh, well, yeah, you need someone to kind of make sure it's
not ass
decent.
Like, there's a lot of like I've watched AI upscaled stuff of like old movies, and it's just like you lose. Or like I fucking hate the ones they've been doing recently where they put things up to 60 FPS.
Yeah,
which looks horrendous.
Yeah, that's bad.
I think it works occasionally if that's the intent behind it. Like Avatar 2 has some action scenes in that 60 FPS, and it takes some getting used to. But I think it works in the long run.
Yeah.
But it's just like, what the fuck is wrong with you? I watched like a Charlie Chaplin short that was like upscaled to 60 FPS. I'm like, this looks so bad.
Yeah. And there's also, there were some early Blu-rays when they first started doing like HD transfers. I don't know if they relied on AI for this or if it was just human error, but they would do that thing where they tried to do the grain removal and it would remove details. So like the one that always comes to mind is the original Blu-ray for Predator with Arnold Schwarzenegger, because it's like just he looks really weird throughout that whole movie because it's like his skin is supposed to be dirty, but it's smooth and it's weird, and I don't like it.
But I think the same issue comes with like people like to do AI like colorizations of black and white movies. I'm like, these look terrible.
Yeah, and it's like
also not the intent.
Yeah,
like
if it's like a fun, just like, oh yeah, I just did this for fun. Like I watched some Doctor Who colorizations here and there.
Well, no, that's fine to do, but like when people are like, yeah, we should do this with all old movies, I'm like, no, you shouldn't, because they were shot this way because they knew they didn't have color.
Yeah, like
so adding color just defeats like a lot of like it looks worse.
Yeah, I think it was John Russo who did it, but somebody at some point did a colorization of Night of the Living Dead, and it's like this movie should never be in color.
Yeah, because it's about like the house. As much as like I like the movie, I didn't love it, but like the house, it lives in the shadows.
Yeah.
There's so much like dripping like shadowness to it because of the black and white nature of it, and it's like it's too bright. It's too. I feel like I've seen clips from the colorization. I'm like this doesn't work.
It is very bright. It's like. It's brighter than, like, Dawn of the Dead is. Like, they use, like, very candy colors when they're doing it. They're going for that, like, bright Technicolor look, and it's like, oh, God, especially no.
But, yeah, I would like to be able to, like, watch the boy who liked Deer eventually, but, like, I think it's great. I think it's really good.
Yeah.
It's really sad. But.
It's really sad, but it's really effective.
Barbara Loden was just really sad.
She was.
I'd give this one an 8, I think.
I liked it a lot.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend this for everyone, but...
Yeah. Especially because it's just hard to watch,
Yeah, it's a sad one.
I meant physically, but...
That too.
Maybe just do this.
Yeah. Or just watch it on your phone and then hold your phone really far away.
Sorry, David Lynch, I need to watch this on my phone.
I mean, who even knows if he still feels that way?
feel like,
He probably... Because, I mean, he also, like, was quoted at one point around the similar era about, like, I don't like, fucking product placement. But he did product placement in Twin Peaks, because it's just like... Yeah, you kind of... There's no way... If you're doing something that's being produced by, like, an actual studio... You're going to have to do product placement. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's just part of the deal now.
But yeah, Barbara Loden, sad lady. Wish she had made more. Mm-hmm. She's been dead for 43 years.
Yes, she has.
So sad.
She's almost been dead as long as she lived.
That's more depressing. Holy shit! Why'd you say that? That's pretty sad.
I don't know.
I realized. So I was thinking I wanted to watch some more, movies for Black History Month this week and maybe next week, depending on what you pick. But I was thinking about maybe watching some movies with Tupac. I did not because I've heard like Juice is good, and I've heard a couple of like good things. Poetic Justice, I think it's called. I've heard
Poetic Justice is the one I hear more commonly about.
But even like he did another one about basketball. I can't remember what it was called. He did a movie with Tim Roth.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Tim Roth looks hot in it, too. But I realized that I'm now the age that Tupac was when he died. He was 25. Like, oh, no. So that made me pretty sad. Because I really like Tupac.
Yeah, and we're just a couple years under the 27 club, so...
Mm-hmm. So, but I didn't end up going with Tupac. I wanted to watch... It's a trilogy of movies. Mm-hmm. It's Penitentiary. Okay. 1, 2, and 3. They're by a guy named Jama Fanaka? Jama? I don't, Jamaa. I don't know. Jama. He went to, I think he went to UCLA, and he was in the late I think late 70s, early 80s, there was a whole, like, grouping of UCLA students that became directors that were in the LA Rebellion film movement, which, like, a bunch of black directors that wanted to create, like, a canon of black films that were completely opposite to, like, the Hollywood ideal. Charles Burnett was also part of it. The guy who did, like, Killer of Sheep, which we covered. Yeah, he did some other ones. He did another movie called Welcome Home, Brother Charles that has been on my list for a while. But I wanted to watch Penitentiary 1, 2, and 3.
Okay.
I think 1 is available... 1 and 2 are available on Tubi, and I think 3 is on YouTube. They might all also be on YouTube.
Okay.
But...
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad you didn't say, like, a paid streaming service, because aside from... my mother's Netflix and Hulu, and Shudder, which I pay for, I no longer have any of them.
Sweet.
Yeah, I canned Disney and I canned the Max because I don't agree with HBO Max's practices, that tax evasion shit they did with the fucking, like, Batgirl and shit.
And even, like, Scoob 2. Or Scoob, like, I hate Scoob, but it's a shitty thing to do.
Yeah, it's like, I don't agree with that on principle, and I'm not gonna fucking support your price hike.
But Shudder?
They
got rid of Critters, a new binge.
That's true, I agree. No,
but
principle.
But Shudder is also, like, a third of the price.
Yes. Yes.
I get it. HBO Max is, like, I think it's, like, has a ton of really good stuff.
Yeah, when they first launched, I was like, this is, like, easily the best out of all of them, but they've slowly kind of chipped away at that reputation.
I might get rid of that one, because I have the Criterion channel, and a lot of the stuff that I really like on the Criterion channel is also available on HBO Max, but I'm like, I can just watch it on the Criterion channel. Mm-hmm. And that's, like, I think Criterion's like $15 a month. It's just expensive, but it's... like, I think it's, because I'm a cinephile, I think it's so good because it has all these other it has interviews and documentaries about these things. And,
oh, yeah.
Like, I really like their adventures in film going, where it's just like an actor or director being like, here's a bunch of movies I like, and here, before each one, I'm going to talk about it a little bit. I'm like, that's great. Mm-hmm. I love it. And then I have Disney Plus, and I'm like, why?
Star Wars.
It's Star Wars, yeah. I'm like, is this worth paying for?
Yeah, that was the only reason why I was gonna keep it, but eventually I got to the point where it was like, I haven't watched Star Wars in like 9 months, so I'm just I'm calling it a caps or quits. And I almost entertained the thought because I'm kind of getting back into my Star Trek groove here again. So I was entertaining the thought of getting Paramount Plus, but I heard that apparently they're taking that down and they're going to be doing a fucking, like, combining with Showtime now. It's like, this is going to be the third incarnation of your streaming. Just give it up. Yeah. Just give it up and sell back the Star Trek rights to Netflix, because I miss all of my Star Trek being on Netflix. It's so much simpler back then.
I need the streaming services to explode. They've got... The bubble is so ready to pop.
Yeah, it's like... Dude,
just bring back cable at this point.
Honestly.
Because cable had ads, but most, like... Peacock has ads, you know?
Yeah, I honestly find myself kind of... I've been thinking about this a little more lately. I kind of miss just... I like serialization in television series, and I think that there are television series it works for, but I feel like in the modern age, a lot of series have had to kind of bend the knee and become serialized, even though, like, the show itself might not work in that serialization form. Like, Star Trek was clearly, like, doing that with a lot of their shows, like, both Discovery and Picard are both very serialized.
Did you watch season 2 of Picard?
I haven't watched any of Picard.
Somebody told me, one of my coworkers said they liked Picard season 1, but 2 was pretty rough.
I've heard they're both pretty rough, but I've also heard from some people that they're also really good.
Yeah. So that's literally any Star Trek I've heard that about, pretty much.
To my understanding, a lot of the people I've heard criticize Picard criticize Discovery, and I don't I don't absolutely like hate Discovery. Like, I don't have like that level of hate that some Star Trek fans do for it, but I also don't think it's a well-written show. I think it doesn't really know what it wants to do, but it's got this big serialized story, but it doesn't really think it through. Yeah, and I think Strange New Worlds was trying to be like that middle ground where it's like, yes, we're mostly kind of episodic again with the Star Trek, but there is like a season plot that might be like kind of brewing in the background, and if that's the case, that's like perfect. I think that's like...
Yeah, I like that in shows.
Yes. Yeah, I do too. So I watched the first episode of Strange New Worlds when it first premiered.
And you said it was... I remember because a bunch of people I know were like, it's so good, and you're like, it was fine.
Dude, they went for a very generic TOS type of episode, and I didn't think that they really did anything that made it stand out. I'm sorry.
It should have started with like the captain's like snowboarding, and he like snowboards out of the holodeck door because he's like, oh, red alert, and he's like, oh, computer, holodeck off, and he has a snowboard, and he comes out, and he is his like winter clothes, and he's like, go.
This is a pre-holodeck era.
They don't have the holodeck?
Holodecks don't come around until TNG's era.
Okay, so he's just like, that's even better then. He has a whole room filled with snow that he puts in, and he's like slipping and sliding away.
It's like, quick, we need to go back to that snow planet. I need to restock. No, but Pike, I do like the actor who played Pike, because you do see him in a lot of season 2 of Discovery. He's like... Discovery has like a new captain every season. It's weird how they kind of go about that. I'm not going to get super into it, but yeah, he's like the captain for the second season. And yeah. But I will say the one really good thing about Discovery outside of Pike is that Michelle Yeoh's in it. She's good in it. Like, she's one of the characters I actually really like in the series. So it's like, fuck, okay, cool.
Okay. But yeah, I also think about watching Star Trek all the time, and I'm like, there's so much of it. And I've I'm not gonna like any of this as much as Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, once I get to Deep Space Nine, I want to do, because I know they get into the Battle of the Borg, which happened, I think the pilot to Deep Space Nine takes place during the finale of Season 3 and the intro to Season 4, which is like a big part of the Borg arc. Because that's basically like off screen from what's happening in TNG. Like, there's basically the Borg like wipe out the Federation almost in a really big battle, and I'm pretty sure like Sisko is there, because I've heard like he confronts Picard, who was assimilated into the Borg at that point. He became like their spokesperson. Anyway, but once I get to that point in Deep Space Nine, I might just do like a string of Borg episodes from TNG that lead into that Deep Space Nine episode. But I don't know. We'll see. When we get there.
There's a new comic run for Star Trek, and it's about Sisko.
Oh, is it really?
So I might pick that one up. I'm like, finally.
Yeah, I'm not there yet, but my goal is, because I typically, when I do get into my Star Trek moods, I tend to watch about 7 seasons worth of material from all the different series, and then I tend to go into about a year-long hibernation.
Yeah. It's like, well, that's enough nerd shit for me.
Yeah, I'm like, I've taken about as much of these 26-season, 45-minute episode Star Trek. Yeah, they're long, but... even the bad Star Trek I kind of like.
No, that's fair. It's a comfy bad, like Full Moon.
Like,
it's a good.
I can't describe why, but I really like Enterprise, and it's so bad.
I only watched, I think, 2 episodes. I'm like, this is not for me. Maybe I'll feel similar to what you feel now when I try to rewatch it, but I was like, that sucked. Yeah. But I think it finally finished Deep Space Nine for the first time, and I'm like, I'll try Enterprise. And I was like, oh no! Oh no!
Yeah, that's about an accurate reaction. Because, it starts off and it takes itself super seriously and tries to kind of stick to the concept, but as it goes along, it just kind of is like, this is gonna be a weird Star Trek show. And it gets weird, in the 3rd episode, I think, is when they do, oh no, Trip, the sexy engineer, went over to an alien ship and accidentally got pregnant. Like, it's just weird stuff like that. So it's really weird, but I just really dig it. And I'm interested to watch Voyager because I hear that that's also got a lot of those weird moments. Like, I've heard countless people describe the salamander episode, and that I cannot describe how excited I am for that episode.
Is that the one where they
hit warp 10 and they turn into salamanders or something?
Yeah. Is that the one where it's just two of them that do? Or
yeah. It's the captain.
They start evolving.
Yes.
And to the point where and then they find them, they're like, oh, they're just fucking. Like, they're trying to procreate, and that's like the final step of evolution. They just become like blobs. That episode is so stupid. It's great. I love that episode. That's maybe the Voyager episode that lives in my head the most.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Voyager episode that lives in my head the most, but I also haven't seen any of Voyager.
I think I've seen it all. My mother used to really like watching Voyager, so I watched most of it with her. I think Voyager's good. I think Janeway and Sisko are my two favorite captains. I like Janeway because she's kind of unhinged.
Yeah,
I think all the captains kind of become unhinged, though. Sisko's unhinged from the beginning, and I think that's why I like him.
I'd say they're all probably unhinged, except Picard is pretty straight and narrow for the most part, but he's very theatrical about it, so.
Remember when, Picard had to get, Whoopi Goldberg's help?
And he had to, team up with William Shatner? I don't know if you've seen that movie.
I haven't seen Generations, but...
I remember thinking it was pretty good. I remember liking all the movies. I only watched the Next Generation movies, though.
Those are the ones I haven't seen, so I've seen the TOS movies. But
I'm sad they never made, they didn't do any... I wish they'd done, Voyager movies and Deep Space Nine movies. Deep Space Nine pretty much had they had, 3-episode arc, which were just movies.
I'll have to wait until I get there to gauge that properly. But to my understanding, from what I hear, I don't think most of the TNG movies are They're
funny.
That's true.
Tom Hardy plays Picard.
Yeah, I do know that.
That's really funny.
That is funny because he looks nothing.
He's bald.
He is bald, which is funny because they show. I've seen clips from season 6 where there's also a Picard flashback, and he is not bald. They have a completely different actor playing his younger self, and it's.
I think he's bald in Nemesis early. I think he's bald for a different reason. I don't know.
I haven't.
That's all. I should pick the Next Generation movies.
Please wait till I get there. But yes,
no, because if I do it, then you'll be like, "Oh, I gotta watch all 7 seasons real quick." I'm just fucking.
That would. I would have to find a hyperbolic time chamber to do that. That would be
boss, I have COVID.
I would have to skip I'd have to do a key episode list. Give me all the big canon.
Just watch it on 20 times. But yes,
that's fun.
Penitentiary 1 through 3 next week.
Yes.
And Star Trek. No.
I mean, I might talk about it a little bit, but probably not a whole lot.
For Black History Month, we're watching all of Deep Space Nine.
I mean, I'll rush through the last 3.5 seasons of TNG real quick, and I'll just skip the season of Enterprise I was planning on watching in there too.
All right, but thank you all for watching. We appreciate you. We'll see you next time for episode 172.